What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. On today's show, will the Raiders ruin the tank this week? And will it be Pete Carroll's fault? And is UNLV about to win the Frisco Bowl? Are they going to beat up on poor Ohio without a head coach? And Ken Boehlke from SinBin.Vegas joins the show to talk about the Golden Knights. Here we go. The Raiders play their biggest game of the season against the Giants this weekend. Two teams that are 2-13, and the loser will control the number one pick in the draft going into Week 18. Could still blow it in Week 18, even if you lose this one. It's a big game. It's very important that the Raiders lose. And it's very important that the Raiders fire Pete Carroll now. There are two very good examples of what could happen if you fire Pete Carroll and if you don't fire Pete Carroll. Because the issue is, Pete Carroll is not trying to tank. At no point this year has Pete Carroll been trying to tank. They're not trying to lose. That's not what Pete Carroll's been doing. He's still not trying to lose, right? That hasn't been the goal. They did not come in with the goal of losing. They came in with the goal of winning 10 games. Everything they've done this year has been about winning. It's why Pete Carroll was so reluctant to play young players. He thought the veterans were going to give them a better chance to win. And then once they got eliminated from the playoffs, we started to see Caleb Rogers and more Jack Besh and Charles Grant, right? Pete Carroll has been trying to win, and he's still trying to win. He's the head coach of the team. You would expect him to be trying to win. But that's a problem because they need to lose. And first, I'm going to give you the bad scenario. We only have to go back to last year. The New England Patriots entered the final week of the season holding the number one pick in the draft. They had a head coach in Jerod Mayo who would eventually get fired. But what did the Patriots do in Week 18? They beat the Bills. And they dropped from 1 down to 4 in the NFL draft. Now, fortunately for the Patriots, they already had a quarterback in place. They didn't need to draft a quarterback. Now, they took Will Campbell, the offensive lineman. They could have taken Travis Hunter, possibly, instead. Or, more importantly, for a team that gets the number one pick and has a quarterback, you could trade down and add more assets for the future. But Jerod Mayo led the Patriots to that win, and they fell from 1 to 4. That can't happen for the Raiders. That can't happen. You can't win this game and risk falling down to 3 or 4 in the draft because that's where they might end up. Hell, they could win the last 2 and fall down to like 6 or 7 in the draft. But you can't do what the Patriots did last year because you don't have your Drake May. You don't have that. You're in prime position to get a quarterback. You can't win. You can't win this game. Now, the best example of a blatant tank job is the 2020 Eagles. So we go back 5 years. The Eagles were not in contention for the number one pick. It's a little bit different, but they entered the final week of the season at 4-10-1. They were not very good. They had nothing to play for in the final game against Washington. Washington was playing for the division lead and a playoff spot and all of that. And the Eagles were leading at halftime against Washington. They trailed by 3 entering the fourth quarter, so had lost the lead, but were still in it. And the Eagles benched Jalen Hurts for Nate Sudfeld. Now, this was Jalen Hurts' rookie season. This was not Jalen Hurts now. We didn't know Jalen Hurts or how good he was, but they still benched him for Nate Sudfeld. They downgraded in quarterback, even though it was rookie Jalen Hurts. Boston Scott was the leading rusher on the day for the Eagles. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was the leading receiver that day. The Eagles tanked hard with guys that are not star NFL players or not starting caliber NFL players, might not even be NFL caliber players, period. They tanked hard. And you know what the Eagles ended up doing? They ended up getting up to the 6th overall pick. Had they won that game, they would have fallen to 9. But they got to 6 what did the Eagles do? They traded back from 6 to 12, and they got a future first-round pick out of that. They then traded up from 12 to 10. They gave up a future third, and they took Devontae Smith. So the cumulative assets there was to go from 6 to 10 and add a first for the cost of a third. That's great. That is good asset management from the Eagles. They took Devontae Smith, by the way, with that 10th overall pick in the draft. Had they won their final game of the season, had they not intentionally tanked by benching their players, they would have been picking 9th. They probably don't have the opportunity to trade back to 12 and then up to 10. They probably just take Devontae Smith at 9 and they never add that extra first-round pick. That's what this is about, is setting yourself up for the future with the best possible draft pick, right? And we all know what the Eagles did after they did that tank job in 2020. They hired a new coach, and they went to the playoffs in every single year since then. It's a run of 5 straight years, at least 5 straight years, including a Super Bowl win. It is important that the Raiders lose. Pete Carroll is not going to oversee that. Pete Carroll is going to do everything he can to win the game. Pete Carroll is not going to bench players for the backups in a close game, which is what they should absolutely do. If the Raiders are winning this game, if the Raiders are close in this game, Raheem Mostert should be getting the carries, not Ashton Genty. Brock Bowers should get a chance to watch from the sideline. There aren't actually that many players you want to take out of the game, but there are some that you should. Max Crosby, I know they might have to physically restrain him, but Max Crosby shouldn't play in the second half of a close game here because it is so important to lose. So important. The Eagles showed you what it can mean to get a higher draft pick and what it can kick off. And Pete Carroll's not going to do that. We know he's not going to do that. It's not who he is. They should fire Pete Carroll. They absolutely should fire Pete Carroll today. If Mark Davis knows he's firing Pete Carroll at the end of the year, which he should know that, they should fire Pete Carroll now. Because winning this game is a disaster for the Raiders, an absolute disaster for the franchise. Because if you win this game and you're not picking first in this NFL draft, there technically is a case for second to be okay. But if you win this game, you probably aren't picking second either. What are you doing at quarterback? What are you doing at the most important position? You're probably playing Geno Smith again next year, or you're having to trade up. You're the team that has to give up a future first-round pick to get to number 1 or number 2, to get Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore. And for a team with so many holes, this is not a team that just needs a new quarterback. They have so many holes. You can't give up that future first-round pick because you need to draft the quarterback with your first-round pick this year, and then you need to be drafting offensive lineman or defensive lineman or wide receiver with the first-round pick next year. You can't trade that one away. And so that's why they need to lose and not risk that. And they need to fire Pete Carroll to make it even more likely that they do, in fact, lose this game. Now, beyond firing Pete Carroll in the middle of the week right before Christmas, Pete Carroll does want to coach the team next year. He has said that now in a couple of press conferences. He was even specifically asked about overseeing a rebuild, and he still said yes to it. Ian Rappaport had a story over the weekend about the Raiders. Specifically, the noteworthy part was Pete Carroll is intent on convincing Mark Davis he should return. So Carroll's 74, staring at a rebuild, and he wants to keep doing this. Quick side note, I've been critical of Pete Carroll. I think the Raiders should fire him now, right? I don't think they should let him coach next year. I don't think you trust him with a rebuild. But credit to Pete Carroll for wanting to keep coaching. I mean, he's not running away from a terrible situation, which he probably should. I mean, again, he's 74. Does he really want to coach a team going through a rebuild for the hope that Fernando Mendoza is good enough to cover up a bunch of holes? I mean, in all seriousness, when are the Raiders going to be like a playoff level team again? It technically could happen next year if Mendoza is awesome, but it's probably a couple of years at best. Carroll wants to coach for 3 years so somebody else can come in and take them to the playoffs. I would probably just retire. But good for Pete Carroll. Wants to keep doing it. Now, the story that Ian Rappaport wrote included that line about Pete Carroll wanting to convince Mark Davis he should return. But he also wrote, expect Tom Brady, who has spent little time in the Raiders building, as he balances his broadcasting duties on Fox and other business interests to increase his presence as the decision closes in. I cannot get over this. We have NFL Network reporting. We've had The Athletic reported already that Tom Brady just is not around. He's just not there. Rappaport specifically saying that Brady is spending more time with Fox to broadcast the games and his other business interest. The Raiders aren't even second on the list. They're behind Fox and others. That's insane, right? And it's just, there's just no way that you can let Tom Brady be the guy in charge, be the guy making the biggest decisions when he's not showing up. He cannot be the most important voice to Mark Davis when he's not there. It's just so wild to me that he has this power, and yet everybody keeps reporting, hey, he's not in the building. He's not there. One last thing from the Ian Rappaport story. Rappaport wrote, Mark Davis is his own man, though, and all the voices around him report to him. He has won 3 titles in 4 years with the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces and believes he can replicate that success with the Raiders. So first off, what is that line? Because I am convinced somebody told Ian Rappaport that. Probably Mark Davis, because I have a hard time believing that an NFL Network reporter would on his own make a comment about, well, Mark Davis has won 3 titles with the Aces, and so he wants to replicate that. He thinks he can replicate that. Somebody with the Raiders told Ian Rappaport that, and I think it's probably might be Mark Davis himself. Here's the problem with that comparison. Mark Davis inherited Asia Wilson. When he bought the Aces, Asia Wilson was already on the team. She's the best player in the WNBA, right? And to compare it to the NFL would be the quarterback position. And in all seriousness, having the best quarterback in the NFL. The Raiders don't have that. They don't have Asia Wilson, right? And so Mark Davis has not shown us, Aces or Raiders, that his teams can actually land that type of player. Again, you're hoping you get the number 1 pick in the draft and you get to draft that player. That's also how they got Asia Wilson before Mark Davis was around. But you're hoping you get the number 1 pick in the draft so you can draft that player. And it's not we have to convince this player to come play for us. We just get him, right? So that's a big problem. He inherited Asia Wilson. Also, and this is the more interesting part, Mark Davis did hire Becky Hammon, and he deserves credit for that. She took over from Bill Laimbeer and has won 3 titles in 4 seasons since then. But what's funny is that Mark Davis hired Becky Hammon by chasing the biggest name possible in the coaching search. He also made her the highest paid coach in the WNBA. He has done that with the Raiders too. He has chased the big name. The best example is John Gruden. Was the big name, the unattainable name that he went out and got and gave this 10-year contract to, right? So he does that. That is how he views coaching searches. Give me a name. He wants a name. That's what he wants. He doesn't necessarily want the offensive coordinator that you haven't heard of. He wants the biggest name out there, the biggest name he can land. And it hasn't worked in the NFL, right? It worked in the WNBA with Becky Hammon. But again, inherited Asia Wilson. Is Becky Hammon coming in and winning a championship if she doesn't have Asia Wilson? Probably not. I don't think it's going to work in the NFL because he's shown us that it's not going to work. He's done it for years now. I just don't think that you can look at this Aces success and say, oh, Mark Davis knows what he's doing. There's a blueprint there for how to win. He's just got to translate it over to the NFL. I don't think that's the case at all. I think they've got to fall into a quarterback being a superstar. And they might do it. They might just do it, but they really need to lose the Giants. Now, this game against the Giants, I'm excited. Honestly, I'm excited. The annoying part about the Raiders being bad, while it's good for the draft pick, is that, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 games here, none of it's like the game hasn't mattered. There's nothing interesting about it, right? Like the interesting parts have been Pete Carroll's decisions on who to play and who not to play. Like, that's been the only interesting part because it doesn't matter. They suck. They're terrible. So it doesn't matter how they play against the Texans or the Broncos. It's all irrelevant. It's nothing to get excited for. But this one, I'm excited for, right? I'm absolutely excited for. It's the second biggest home game in Las Vegas Raiders history. The only one bigger is the game against the Chargers at the very end of the 2021 season when it was if they tied, both teams got into the playoffs. But if one team won, then the loser would be out, and the Raiders won the game in overtime. They kicked the field goal to win it in overtime. And as much as I love tanking, this is not more important than a playoff clincher. That is kind of the goal there, outside of winning the Super Bowl. That's the regular season goal. So I'm not going to say it's bigger than that, but it's damn close. And Raiders lose out, they get the number 1 pick, and it changes the entire view of the offseason, right? The Raiders will be able to pick a quarterback. Whether they like Mendoza or Dante Moore, they'll be able to get a quarterback that they can at least hope is the franchise quarterback, the path to competing, the franchise-altering pick. That's the best way to do it. That quarterback might be a bust. Whoever they take, they might both be bad, right? But this is what you want to be able to try or have to try, because the Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo to Aiden O'Connell to Gardner Minshew to Geno Smith, that run is horrible. And no team should be trying to win with that string of quarterbacks or that type of quarterbacks. So I am excited for this one because it's actually a chance for the Raiders to lose a big game and get the number 1 pick in the draft. I'm excited. You got to be cheering for the Giants. I mean, you really do. You got to be cheering for the Raiders to lose the game. I cannot state how important it is that the Raiders lose this game. And anybody that's out there that's like, oh, as a fan, you can't cheer for the team to lose. Tanking is bad. That's not. The players don't care about it. The coaches don't care about it. You should. You absolutely should, because it is important to get the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, before we go to Bischoff's Briefs, I got something to give away. So shout out to Arnold, one of the listeners of the show. He gave me 2 tickets to UNLV's game on Monday against La Sierra. If you want to win these tickets, it's a pair of tickets to that game. If you want to win the tickets, I got a little quiz for you. You're going to have to email me at TechnicallyCorrectVegas@gmail.com. The first person to email me there with the answer to this question will win the tickets. So here's your question. Who scored the first points of this UNLV basketball season? This season, UNLV basketball, who scored the first points? Email the right answer to technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. First one to do it wins the tickets. Good luck. Thank you to Arnold. And somebody will be taking home 2 tickets. As long as you guys can find the answer to that question. Shouldn't be too hard. But as long as you can, you're going to win some tickets to go watch UNLV play on Monday. But coming up next, it's Bischoff's Briefs. UNLV and Ohio play in the Frisco Bowl tonight, 6 p.m. from the Cowboys practice facility. I'll get over that at some point, maybe. But I wanted to give you some advanced stats because I know that's why you're here. I love to yell numbers at you. Parker Fleming has a good site of college football stats. He's Stats of War on Twitter. Good follow. Ohio, not a good run defense. EPA per play, they ranked 120th in the country this year against rushes. For the record, we know UNLV's run defense was bad. They were only 113 in EPA per play against rushes this season. So whatever you thought of UNLV's run defense, Ohio was a little bit worse. Specifically, though, Ohio allowed 130, excuse me, I phrased that poorly. God, I blew that. Ohio ranked 134th in yards after contact allowed. They gave up so many yards after contact this season. UNLV offensively, 4th in the country in yards after contact. So you've got one of the best in the entire nation in running through contact, getting yards after contact versus one of the worst defenses. Should be pretty helpful to UNLV. Surprisingly, though, Ohio was really good against quarterback scrambles. Fun fact about Parker Fleming's website, it's broken down by design quarterback runs and quarterback scrambles. Ohio was 2nd in the country in EPA per play against quarterback scrambles. 2nd in the whole country. And this is where UNLV, Calandria is awesome at this. UNLV was 4th in the country in EPA per play when scrambling. So that's a fascinating part of this game where Calandri's been great at that. Is Ohio actually going to be able to contain that and stop that when he scrambles? On the other side of the ball, Ohio's quarterback Parker Navarro runs a lot. He scrambles a lot as well. There's some design runs and some scrambles in there. UNLV was not very good against quarterback runs this season, designed or scrambles. So that could be a big area where Ohio torches UNLV is the quarterback run. But one big weakness for Ohio offensively, their pressure rate allowed was 43% this year, which is high. That means 43% of the time they drop back for a pass, the quarterback was under pressure. That ranks 130th in the country. Ohio won 8 games, but they're very bad at a lot of things. So that's a big area where I'm guessing UNLV is going to get some pressure on Navarro. I guess the question is going to be, does he get sacked or does he get away and scramble and get down the field and pick up a bunch of yards? That might be what decides the game. Does UNLV actually finish off some sacks or not? Using Parker Fleming's numbers, 56% chance for UNLV to win this game. Honestly, it feels low to me. I expect UNLV to win. Ohio kind of fits in line with a lot of the Mountain West teams that UNLV beat this year. I know they barely beat a lot of those teams, like an Air Force or a Utah State, so maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but it's a bowl game, and Dan Mullen, UNLV didn't have anybody opt out, so I don't know why they wouldn't win this one. Dan Mullen did say Ohio's going to play hard because their head coach was banging a student and got fired for it, so maybe that's the motivation Ohio needs, and UNLV is going to be in some trouble. But I think they win. I think they win this game. I don't want to say easily, but I do think that they're going to put up a ton of points on Ohio's defense and win this game. I don't know. Can they score 50? Can I say let's say 51-38? That's my final score prediction for you, for UNLV. Golden Knights are back in action. They're hosting the Sharks. It's the last game before Christmas. Interesting game, too, because Golden Knights are not going to have Shea Theodore or Jack Eichel. And I'm not really sure how good this team is without those two players. But if the Golden Knights are still a playoff team without those two players, they're better than the San Jose Sharks. Right? That's a team you're better than if you're still a playoff team without Eichel and Theodore. If the Golden Knights are in danger of slipping out of the playoffs with no Eichel and with no Theodore, the Sharks might be better than you. Because you go through just the Pacific side of this. Anaheim, Edmonton, no Eichel and Theodore, those teams are going to be better than Vegas. The Kings, probably. But then you get to the Sharks, and that's a team where you're like, they're not that good. So even without Eichel, even without Theodore, put Carlson in there as well, they might be better than the Sharks still. I don't know if they are, but that's why it's kind of an interesting game because I feel like this is sort of the basement of those tests for can you stick around the playoff race without Eichel and Theodore? And how long are they going to be out? It's going to be the important part of that. Because if it's short term, sure, you can be bad for 3 weeks and it's fine. If it's 2 months, you might be in some trouble. So I'm actually fascinated to see how they look in this game because they didn't look good against Calgary. They did not look good against Edmonton. Do they look any better in this one? Maybe. Also in the NHL, fun story here. Kind of a nerdy stat story here, but Jesse Granger and James Myrtle of The Athletic had this. Shots on goal in the NHL are down. From that story, entering last weekend, goaltenders were facing an average of only 27.9 shots against per game, the 5th fewest since the league began tracking and publishing shot data 70 years ago. And the why is great. The NHL is finally tracking shots on goal properly. It's nothing that the players are doing differently. It's just how they're keeping stats. And the best example is a glove save. So if a player shoots and the goalie catches it with his glove, we always see the fake windmills. They catch the puck here, and then after they catch it, windmill their arm up in the air like a bunch of losers. Goalies are all fakes. But the shot was going wide. The shot was wide of the post. It was never going to be on target. It was never going to go in the back of the net. That is not a shot on goal. For most of hockey's history, that is actually counted, though, as a shot on goal. There are people watching and, guessing the trajectory there. But now the NHL is apparently using tracking data to determine the actual trajectory of the puck. And in that scenario, if the puck's going wide of the net, it's not going to count as a shot on goal and therefore not going to count as a save, which is how it should be. Because the word save is right there. Goalies save goals from happening. If a shot's going wide, it can't be a goal. It shouldn't be a save. So what it's led to statistically, save percentages are down for goalies because of this, which I find to be funny. But that's one of the big statistical outliers because right now, I believe it's still true, the average save percentage in the NHL is below 900. We've been for a while now, above 900 has been average, maybe 905 or so. That's not the case this year. So when you're looking at a goalie, and normally if he's below 900, you're like, he's kind of bad. Right now, if you're at like 897, 898, yeah, you're an average goalie. That's what it is. And you're at 905. It used to be average. Now you're awesome. So it's changed the stats for goalies. Also, shots on goal stats and shooting percentages are actually up a little bit, the shooting percentage part. But that's the part of this that is sort of statistically interesting. And it's just the fact that the NHL is now tracking things more properly. Now do it for own goals. Our soon-to-be Las Vegas A's made a trade. The A's traded for Jeff McNeil, trade with the Mets. They sent a 17-year-old minor leaguer, Yordan Rodriguez, to the Mets. The Mets are also paying $5.75 million to the A's to help cover Jeff McNeil's salary. That's about a third of his salary for 2026. So what that tells you is that this is a pure dump by the Mets, a salary dump by the Mets. They've made some moves. Marcus Semien is in there to play second base, which was McNeil's primary position. He's a utility guy. He plays the outfield too. He could have been their left fielder, but they're moving on from McNeil and his salary. McNeil last year had a 111 OPS plus, so he was above average hitter. He had been below average for the previous 2 seasons, and he turns 34 in April, right? So how good is he going to be as a hitter? There is a chance he's about to hit the drop off and he's not very good as a hitter, but he was good last year. All of that is to say, and his contract, he's got a club option for 2027. All of that is to say is the A's traded for a 1-year player, right? If things go well, they can pick up the club option and have him for 2 years, but 34 years old, the other team dumped him. There's no guaranteed year after 2026. This is a 1-year player, right? And I don't know, or I'm trying to figure out, I guess, like, what are the Mets going for in 2026? Because trading for Jeff McNeil as a 1-year player is something you do if you're trying to be good in 2026, right? Like that's what you're trying to do here. But it's not something you do if you're focused on 2027 and beyond. And so do the A's think they're going for it? Like, do they think they have a chance to win the American League West? The division is not, there's no, 95, 98 win team in this division. Seattle could do it. Houston maybe could do it. But, like, there's no dominant team in this division. You have a good year. You win 90 games. You probably win the AL West this year. Do the A's think they can do that? Because that's what Jeff McNeil is. Because by the way, it's also saying Zach Geloff is not playing second base. That's also another thing it's saying. McNeil's a utility guy, so he could play other places, and Geloff could play second base, but that's basically telling us that they don't want Geloff to play second base. So, do the A's think they can win the division in 2026? Is that what they think? Or did they just see, hey, that guy's pretty good at baseball, it doesn't cost us a prospect, and we only have to pay him 2/3 of his salary. Let's do it. Why not? Maybe, because again, they didn't give anything. I mean, they gave up a prospect who's 17, but they didn't really give anything up, so it's really in no way like a bad trade. Maybe it's bad if it blocks Zach Geloff and he could have blossomed into something, but that's kind of pushing the limits of what a good or bad trade is. But I guess, like, how good do the A's think they are in 2026? Because maybe they think they can win the division and they're going to kind of go for it. Because that's the other part. Trading for Jeff McNeil is not like oh yes, this puts us in for 2026. It's a nice move to make you better in 2026. So fascinated to see what the A's think they are in 2026 while in Sacramento. Colton Miller might play in one of the Raiders' last 2 games. Pete Carroll got asked that yesterday, and he said we'd love to get him out on the field. He has been back to practice. He has an ankle injury, hasn't played since week 4. Raiders' best offensive lineman. There's 2 games left in the season. As much as I sit here and tell you the team should tank, I have no problem with Colton Miller coming back and playing. Players want to play. If Colton Miller is able to rehab and get back in season, you should play Colton Miller. Now, you're playing the Giants. We get to the third quarter of this game, and you're winning 17-14. Colton Miller can come out of the game like Crosby and Bowers and Genty, but I would have no problem with playing Colton Miller just because players want to play. It's what you should do. You shouldn't just say, hey, get out of here. We don't want you to play if you're healthy. So if he's healthy, play him. If he's not healthy, see him next year. But Colton Miller might play in one of the last 2 games of the season. But this has been Bischoff's Briefs. If you want to sponsor Bischoff's Briefs, you can reach out to me at technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. We can do something fun, make it work. But coming up next, we're going to have the first guest that the show has had. It's Ken Boehlke of SinBin.Vegas. He is Ken Boehlke from SinBin.Vegas. I assume most of you watching or listening know who he is. If you don't, he's bald. Hi, Ken.
Hello.
Why do you hate Mitch Marner?
I don't hate Mitch Marner. Why do you think I hate Mitch Marner?
Why does everybody hate Mitch Marner?
Because they think he should score more goals, and he doesn't score that many goals, though he did score a goal last game. I think people are just trying to figure out, why does he not look as awesome as $12 million you would think you were getting, right? Like that Jack Eichel, $12 million. Guy's amazing. He's always amazing. McDavid, Draisaitl, name the other $12 million guys. He doesn't always look like that, but then the stats come up and they're there.
So, okay, how should we judge Mitch Marner? Because I'll give you the very reductionist take. None of this matters until it's the playoffs.
Correct.
If he scores 12 goals in 3 or 4 series, it's the greatest signing or trade then signing they've had. If they get eliminated and he's got 1 goal and 2 assists across 2 series, is that it? None of this matters?
At least in the short term, yeah. I think if he had 40 points this season and then he scores a bunch of goals in the playoffs, we might have a different feel. But he's doing pretty much what we expected to happen in the regular season. Bunch of points, not as many goals. Impact is hit or miss. I guess we maybe expected it to be a little bit more. Was certainly there in the comeback of the last game. But then, yeah, if it goes to the playoffs and what everyone was saying in Toronto ends up being the case, which is the guy can't score in the playoffs and he doesn't play a playoff style of game and he ends up with 1 goal over 12 playoff games, say that's what it is in 2 rounds, yeah, that's going to be a problem. And that is how it's going to be judged. There's no question about it.
Is he a good center?
They were down 4-0, and then all of a sudden they put Hurdle at center. I don't think it's his fault. I don't think he's a center. I don't think he's going to play center. I don't think it necessarily even makes sense in Cassidy's system. Usually the center has to be down closer to the goal, and he likes to be more up in the zone, allow the defenseman to get activated, that type of thing. It's better for a winger. I think long-term he's going to be a winger. I think that's not surprising, but I don't think he's a great center. I don't think he's terrible, but I don't think he's great at it.
Okay, the idea of him playing center or Riley Smith or Barbashev, whatever they're going to do, it's because Jack Eichel's hurt. I know you've called it coin flips. I've been saying this team goes to overtime with everybody, and if not, they lose or win by 1 goal every game they play. And so that screams average team, even if their analytics say they're a top 10 team, even if their points percentage does. If every game you play is 1 goal, it seems pretty average. They don't have Eichel and Theodore, and for how long, who knows? Are they a playoff team without those two? In theory, they'll be back and they will be in the playoffs. But for however long those two are out, is this even a playoff level team?
Probably not. I mean, it's so hard because what is a playoff team? The current answer is the Utah Mammoth. And it's maybe they are as good as the Utah Mammoth. But then again, it's you watch the last 2 games and even the game against New Jersey, and New Jersey's there without their 2 best players, Timo Meier and Jack Hughes didn't play in that game. So the Golden Knights were basically in the same place, and that was your classic coin flip. These last two have not been coin flips. I know the last one gets to 1 goal and it's close. Oh, look how great we play when we're down by 4. That to me means nothing. But like, no, probably not. They're not that good without their best forward and their best defenseman. That's not terribly surprising. And their best goalie. We don't even mention that. I mean, I don't know that that would make as much of a difference as Eichel or Theodore, but they're also down their best goalie and William Karlsson. Like, they're down a lot right now. Are they a playoff team? If this was the roster moving forward, I would say, and you're going to like this one, they would be a coin flip to make the playoffs.
So, okay, assume they're healthy at some point and those guys are back. And I know that's stupid because somebody's going to be on long-term IR at every point of the season. But assume they're healthy. How good do you actually think they are? Like, I feel like they are better than a coin flip team. They are better than an average team, even if they haven't really, it doesn't look like it when we watch them. But like, how good do you think they are? Can they win the Stanley Cup?
Probably not, because of the fact of how stacked the Western Conference is. Like, I would probably put them behind Edmonton, which means it would be at the moment, and I'm not fully sold on Minnesota, but at the moment it would be Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Edmonton, then Vegas. And that's a fully healthy Vegas, everybody in the lineup. Other conference, they might be better than everybody in the other conference. So that's where it gets a little tricky, is like, they're definitely a top 10 team. They're almost certainly a top 8, 7, somewhere in there. But because of the fact that, like, what the path's inevitably going to be, like, I don't think anyone can sit here in the late December and say you can pick any other team other than Colorado to win the Stanley Cup. Like, it seems ridiculous to do that. They don't lose. They never lose. So why would you think they're going to lose 4 out of 7 to anyone? I don't think they're going to. I can't predict the Golden Knights to do that. But I can predict or say that if the Golden Knights are fully healthy, they're good. They're very good. They're just not as good as the best team in the league.
Judging the team fully, like they're trying to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think they're going to be thrilled if they lose in the second round. But like, if this team lost in, say, the conference finals to Colorado in 6 games, like what do you do with that season for a team that should be, like, their window is, in theory, you need to be winning the Stanley Cup soon again because it's not going to be open forever probably. But like, what do you judge a team or this team on if that's what the outcome is?
I think it would just keep plugging, right? Like, hope that comes through. Hope that you get the healthy postseason and the other teams don't, which is kind of what happened the year that they won compared to the other couple of years that they didn't win. Like, they're good. They're in a position to continue being good. What the window is confusing, and like, I'm in the same place as you. Like, yeah, it seems like you're in a must-win now window, but at the same time, it's like, well, all right. Well, what happens when William Karlsson and Braden McNabb aren't in the lineup? Well, they'll probably go find replacements for William Karlsson and Braden McNabb. They did not for Alex Pietrangelo, but that's also somewhat late in, like, they knew that right after the season. They ended up going and doing Marner. Wouldn't shock me if that's the next place they're looking to fix. So, like, the window, I think, is going to continue shifting. The only way the window actually closes is if Mitch Marner's not good, or Mitch Marner's not, like, the combination of Marner and Eichel can't be Stanley Cup competitive. And we don't know that yet. Like, so far, it looks like they're probably not, but also it's been 30 games and they've had injuries and Stone wasn't in and all of these different things. I don't think you could say that yet. So I wouldn't say the window's closed at all, but also I don't think the window is reliant as much on some of the older guys as I initially thought, because Marner and Eichel are there.
I think the best thing that they've done is, well, they don't draft anybody, so they haven't been good because they're bringing up guys that are good, but they've replaced the guys when they get to 32, 33, 34. And some of it's been trades, and they trade guys for nothing. Or, God, I forgot his name. Who'd they trade Fleury for in Chicago?
That was Mikael Häkkinen.
Häkkinen, yes. You trade guys for nothing, or they let Marchessault go, or Pietrangelo gets long-term IR retired. Like, they've found different ways to do it, and then they replace them with signing or trades of guys that are 27 instead. I think it's the best thing they've done as an organization. I also don't know how long you can keep doing that, because across all sports, nobody does that. Like, this is not a thing that's like, oh yeah, you just get rid of the 32-year-olds and replace them with 27-year-olds, because usually the 27-year-olds aren't just available for you to go get, but they've done a good job of that. And I think you're right. Like, if they miss pretty heavily on one, if Marner is like, that's it. Or obviously if Eichel's like, oh, he's done for a year and a half,
Right,
like
right.
that's a big issue too. But I think that's the most impressive thing. But I feel like at some point they're going to miss on back-to-back ones, and all of a sudden it's, they're struggling for a wild card spot, and it's kind of like, oh, this might be actually the end of the window. But I don't know when that happens.
That may have already happened. Like,
Yeah.
I think there was a shift at the deadline in 24. So they had won the cup in 23. They brought back everybody except for Riley Smith because they had to do something, and they prioritized Ivan Barbashev over Riley Smith. Probably ends up being a good thing. Bring Riley Smith back twice. Whatever. But at that moment, it was like, okay, we're going to make two big time moves in that replace 32 for 27 thing. And that was Hurdle and Hannafin. They've both been all right to good. Have they been better than their salaries? I don't think so. I'm not sure. I would say probably not. So, like, those two, then Marner, now you're going to have to find number 1A defenseman if Theodore is not that. And that's still a little bit up in the air. He's kind of been it this year, at least defensively. Offensively, it hasn't been as good. And then he's not on the power play. So if it's like it's always going to fall at the feet of Marner because Marner's this hot button issue. And you started off the interview asking me if I hate Mitch. Like, that's just the way it goes. That's how it's going to go. It was Eichel for a little while. It was Pietrangelo for a little while on that. But like, that's what's tricky is like they may have already started to do that, and the packages that they gave up to get those two players are way more impactful than what they gave up to get Mitch Marner. It was $12 million and or Nick Waugh, which they didn't even have to do, but they did because they wanted the extra year that they didn't actually want, that Mitch Marner wanted. I still I'll never understand why they did that.
No, it was good for them, Ken. It was good for them.
That's
right.
Good definitely good for the team. No tampering. But, and I don't buy the tampering thing for the record, but like, that's the part where like, yes, you have to get it right over and over and over again. But what I think is going to get lost in a lot of this is what you said. Like, they were pushing for a wild card spot. That in most NHL circles is still considered good. Like, most people still consider you're in the mix for the playoffs. That's a good team still. But that's probably not a good team. If they miss the playoffs with this roster, with this amount of salary cap, like, it's a disaster. And it's like everything needs to be changed if that's what happens. Injuries aside, like, it can't happen. So like, where they were Stanley Cup champions, add to their roster, go into the 2024 playoffs playing a very good Dallas team, but a very beatable Dallas team, we have now learned. A Dallas team that did not make the Cup final last year or the following year. Lose that series when you were $12 million over the salary cap. And then the following year, Minnesota, not a great series there, get blasted by Edmonton. What does it look like? If it's a loss in the first round here, or beat a crappy team and then get blasted by Edmonton or Colorado or Dallas or whatever, like, you're heading the wrong way. And that's where we're going to have to look back at it and say, all right, well, is this actually working? Or is this just treading water to be an okay team? And then you're the Minnesota Wild from the last 20 years before this one, which is just, they're always around, but they're never going to do it. For the last 2 years, we have not thought that this team was going to win the Stanley Cup. And so far, they haven't since the year they won it. Even that year, I wasn't even sure, which maybe that's on me, not them. I don't know.
You didn't believe in Aiden Hill coming out of nowhere to be the best goalie in the playoffs?
They didn't believe in Aiden Hill. They Laurent Brossoit gave up like 7 goals and they put him back in there.
So, okay, let me give you my theory on why Vegas might actually still be good for a while. And it's trying to predict how billionaires are going to spend their money, but the salary cap's going up a lot over the next 3 years. And The Athletic had a story about this where it was like, are all of the teams going to spend to the cap or close to it? And the comparison that I've thought of is it's baseball, where you have so many owners that just don't spend money, and then other owners that are like, well, of course we're going to give Shohei Ohtani $1 billion, but we're going to pay it in 12 years. if there's a split with the cap going up where 10 to 15 owners decide we're not going all the way to the cap. We're sticking around 90 million. You guys have fun at 110 million. Bill Foley's not going to be that owner. They're going to be spending there, and there's going to be a talent differential, I think, that's spread
Yep.
across the league if that happens. I don't know if enough owners are going to say that, but I think if they do, that's going to give the Golden Knights an advantage, and it's going to be even easier to replace the 32-year-old with the 27-year-old, because when the 27-year-old is going to get paid and it's an owner who doesn't want to go over 90 million in cap, we're trading him, like what happens in baseball. So that's sort of my optimistic where it's like Bill Foley's money might simply keep them competitive for a long time if other owners are like, no, thanks.
And bigger part of that, baseball, half the teams don't make the playoffs. Hockey, they do. 50% of the teams make the playoffs. Like, that's a huge number. And if you're telling me, even if it's like you're saying maybe it's half the owners don't spend up the cap, if it's 6, now you're talking 16 out of, what is that, 26 teams? Like, there's only 10 teams that are trying that don't make it. And then inevitably, some of those 10 are going to be doing the rebuild thing. Like, yeah, I think they can continue going down this road. It's just, are these players always going to be available, and are they always going to be the right players every single time? Mark Stone was the right player. Alex Pietrangelo was the right player. Jack Eichel was the right player. Is Mitch Marner, is Tomas Hertl, is Noah Hannafin, are the next 2 or 3 that they're going to do actually going to be it? And then beyond that, I still have a little bit of I don't know if it's concern. I don't know. I have it's a theory. I'm not sure what it is, but like, there are still expansion pieces involved. And I wonder, what does it look like when all the expansion pieces are gone? There were expansion pieces used to get Jack Eichel, which Alex Tuck and Peyton Krebs, I guess, was not, but Alex Tuck was an expansion piece. There are still expansion pieces making massive impact. Shea Theodore, McNabb, Carlson, they're all a big part of what they're doing. Plus, Mark Stone was born out of expansion pieces. A lot of these, once that goes away, how much of it was they were starting at a place where here's what it reminds me of. I've recently seen I don't know if it's a meme, but it says, did you know if you had $500,000 and you put it in a 5% savings account, you can live off of that amount every single year? Like, it's great. Just do that. And everyone's like, well, wait a minute, I don't have $500,000. Like, I think they might have started, and I'm not saying the rules were better or not. I'm saying they
rigged it for
dominated.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
they dominated the expansion draft. They got so many assets out of the expansion draft, and then also picked a good enough team where there were a number of players that were good. They started at a place no one has ever started before. So now when we're comparing them to other teams in the salary cap eras, it's like, well, it's different because they started in a different place. They had $500,000. They're dealing with the dividends. Well, what happens if the dividends shut off? What happens when you don't have any of that anymore? Because if you take out all of the expansion pieces, it's pretty shallow all of a sudden. Like, it doesn't look like the same roster. And that's what we're seeing. Carlson's not there. Theodore's not there. That's just 2 of them. And all of a sudden, it's not that good. It's not as good. So, like, that's a part of it that I still wonder, is this something you can continue having success doing when eventually, in every sport, not drafting well catches up, unless they can keep finding Braden Bowmans?
All right. I want to come back to the right now. Best 4 healthy centers on the team right now are what?
Currently?
Yeah. Like their next
Hertl,
game.
Yeah, Hertl's 1, Howden's 2, Sissons is 3, and then I would probably go with, I didn't like how Barbashev looked either, but I would probably lean towards him. I think he's a better option than Smith. I wouldn't mind them looking at Lazinski, just because I think it would put some fresh blood into there. I think he can play third line center, chuck him with Bowman. He's played with Bowman in the AHL a little bit. Doesn't matter, Sod, Smith, whoever you want to put on the left there. I would probably go down that road, just because I think they're going to be better off long term with Barbashev in the right place, Marner in the right place, Stone in the right place, Smith even in the right place, which is left place for him. But I would probably go with Lazinski as the option, but is he the best of the four? No. Barbashev's probably better than Lazinski at the NHL level playing center, but Lazinski, you don't have now you don't have Barbashev on the wing, which is useful.
Okay, that's a terrible list. So
I would agree. That's not good. Yeah, it's not great.
Not knowing exactly how long day-to-day Jack Eichel's out, and what was he, week to week, and it's almost 2 months now on Karlsson?
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's.
Yeah.
We don't know what that one's good. I don't think that one's anytime all that soon. But also, there's rumors that maybe it is sooner. I don't know. We'll see.
Do they trade for a center?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because can you reasonably look at a team that is 16-8? And I know loser points are ties, and you did your little thing, and I like your little thing about how they're. What's the record now with ties?
I'm forgetting what it is right now, but it's like
the 13 wins, and then there'd be 11 ties, and then 8 losses. So it's in soccer terms, they're like mid-table, right?
Elite
Great
soccer record.
Way to
Elite
go,
soccer record.
Bournemouth. But they're what happened to them? But like, I don't think it makes sense. 16 wins, 18 losses. And you're going to now throw more money or throw more assets. Like they could have traded a second-round pick for Phil Deneau. I don't know if they would have actually wanted to do that in the division, but like Phil Deneau's good. Phil Deneau's been a problem for the Golden Knights. They could have gone that route. That was worth a second-round pick. That guy doesn't score either. So a center that scores is going to be worth a bunch. And moments ago, I just found out that their best prospect got injured in World Juniors. Again,
it's fine. Injured players always get traded. He'll be fine.
Injured like 6 times since they drafted him, Trevor Connolly.
Not injury prone. Not a problem with this organization. They'd never have guys that get injured multiple times.
No comment.
There's stacks of literature. Some are this high, some are this high. Lots of stacks of literature. They're out there. I don't know. It's like trying to figure out this team at the trade deadline because they generally make a move. And right now, they need a center. But
sure,
by the time the deadline gets here, they might not need a center. I think it's interesting you say, like, should a team with this record be willing to pay a second-round pick or more? When I feel like Kelly McCrimmon's going to look at it as we got the loser points. They have the best record by points percentage in the Pacific. All we got to do is win against 2 Pacific teams, and we're in the conference finals. Of course we're going to go for it. Whether he thinks it's a center or not, of course we're going to go for it and make a move.
Yeah, but he also last year said it was impossible to predict that the scoring would dry up in the playoffs when it wasn't. It
was the number one question
and
about the team the whole year.
Sometimes they have actually, even though I understand they make moves every single time, and they probably will do something, but this could be an example of utilizing the deadline to make your team marginally better this year, or maybe not even, doesn't even really matter, but utilizing that opportunity to make them better next year and the following year and understand what is it going to look like moving forward. They've done this in the past. Like you can make an argument the Eichel thing was that. You can make an argument the Stone thing was that, where they look at the prices and the availability of player at deadlines in a much different way than a lot of other teams do. And so I think it is possible that they could take this deadline and say, all right, let's find a guy with term. But spending a second round pick on a guy who's an unrestricted free agent makes little to no sense at 16-8. If they win 7 games in a row out of the Olympic break and that's what it looks like on deadline day, all right, fine. Like, no big deal. And then there's the goalie thing. Like, a lot of people want them to just ship Aiden Hill out. And I think it's ridiculous when you consider that he just signed a 6-year-long contract. He's played 5 games.
All right. So I want to ask you about Aiden Hill. He's just started this contract. They have Carter Hart here. Carter Hart is on a relatively cheap deal. I don't think there's contract-wise, it's not like, oh, Carter Hart is clearly here to be the starter because look at his contract. It's not that big of a contract, but
it's more clearly here to be the backup over Akira Schmid.
Right.
Like, I think giving him, and then also I think the contract indicates we believe he's going to be worth more than $2 million next year. So that would be more than just a backup. He's
Yeah.
more in a 1B than what Kira would have been as a backup.
Do you think and they is the front office mostly, do they want Carter Hart to be the number one goalie?
I think they would love for that to be the case, sure. But what does that even do for you? In the short term, it's nice. He's okay. He's better than Akira Schmid. You do better in the short term. Cool. What that means next year is, I guess, then you could get rid of Aiden Hill and then throw $6 million at something else. But if that were to be the case, then 2 years from now, when that contract is up, he's now making more than Aiden Hill's currently making. So it only fixes the problem for the next 40 games plus the playoffs, 50 games, and then next season. And that's only if you get rid of Aiden Hill or Aiden Hill's on long-term IR, which I guess could happen. I've seen that happen before. But I think it's a short-term Band-Aid that is trying to win a cup. And I maybe I'm crazy. I still watch Colorado play hockey. Turn on a Colorado game. I beg anyone who watches Golden Knights games every night, turn on a Colorado game and tell me that this team is in the same stratosphere as that team. They're not. That could change by the time the games actually matter, but right now they are not. And they're coming to Vegas in a week here. We're going to get to see it live. Do they want a Carter Hart to be the starter? I think that would be great. A $2 million starter is awesome, but it's only next year. It's like rookie contract on a quarterback. It only works if you win in that window. And are they going to be able to make the moves with $6 million to all of a sudden be a team that scores more than 2.6 a game and is being outscored at 5-on-5? I don't know.
On the note of contracts and next year, what's Dorofeyev getting? How good is he? What should he be getting?
Man, that's a tricky one. I actually was having a text conversation with somebody before the season, and 4 or 5 games in, they told me maybe 11 million. And I was kind of joking. And then I was like, yeah, that's not happening. He's like, well, probably at least 7. Then I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, he might end up getting 7. But then now we're at 24 consecutive games without a 5-on-5 goal. 24 games in a row without a 5-on-5 goal. That's not great, especially when you consider last year when he went out in the playoffs, Victor Olofsson filled in, and there were a couple of times where Victor Olofsson also took the role in the regular season. It was identical, no change at all. Victor Olofsson's a $2 million player. If they put someone else there that's a shooter, can they do the same thing? I would argue close, maybe a little bit worse. I think right now, if I had to sign into a contract right now, I'm probably not going beyond about 4. I wouldn't go long term. I'd like to continue proving it. And I think if I'm him, I'm like, absolutely not. I'm about to score 30 goals for the second year in a row. It's 7. It's at least 7. And they could be headed for a situation where there's offer sheet. There could be arbitration if he decides to go for arbitration. I think arbitration is going to get him a lot of money because there are not a lot of 30-goal scorers in the league, and they do not make less than $5 million.
If they don't want to sign him to $7 million, and assuming they actually have that conversation and they know what Dorofeyev is going to ask for, is that the move at the deadline to make your team better for the future, is to trade him to somebody that does want to give him $7 million and you get something back for a player that you don't intend on keeping at that dollar amount?
So if they were in on Quinn Hughes, sure. Right? If it's number 1A defenseman that's going to come with an 8-year contract, that now you have Eichel, Marner, Hanifin, Theodore, and other player, as well as Hurdle, sure. Okay, we can do that. That's the piece. Similar to the Alex Tuck move. When you had to give up something to get Jack Eichel, you gave up Alex Tuck. Yes, I think that's possible. But just to do it to Band-Aid the current team, well, then who steps into that role? Unless it's this player, the player you're trading for, because they don't have Victor Olofsson anymore. If they had Victor Olofsson, it'd be easier. I don't know why they don't have Victor Olofsson. I'm assuming he told them 4-letter word off. I don't know. Am I allowed to swear in here?
You're allowed to swear. You're allowed to swear.
He said, get the fuck out of here. I don't know why I'm being healthy scratched in the playoffs. How do you get better trading the only upside you really had. Like, I guess Braden Bowman still has some upside, but like they're getting who's underperforming on the roster?
Oh, Dorofeyev.
Maybe. I mean, he's what he is, but like Eichel's not underperforming. Theodore's not underperforming. Marner's not underperforming. Stone's not underperforming. Goalies are not underperforming. Hannafin, maybe a little. Hurdle's not. I mean, points aren't as good there, but he's not underperforming. Bottom six, sure. I guess Colton Sissons is underperforming and Riley Smith and Brandon Saad, but like, okay, so we have 6 more goals now in the game instead of 2. Great. Like, so you take the one guy who could potentially have the upside. Now, I don't buy it personally. I understand I've been wrong on these in the past and people yap at me still about them, but like the guy doesn't pass. I wish we both love soccer. In soccer, they have the little pass map and the
Yes.
line gets bigger. Like when this guy passes to this guy a lot, the line's like thick. It's like
Yes.
18 point. His passing structure would be one giant bar back to it would be the right point. That's it. Every once in a while, and I don't even think it counts as a pass, he recycles it back underneath the goal. Otherwise, he's trying to score. Now, it's good on this team because no one else is trying to score. He's the only one out there that actually tries to score every single time he has the puck. Everyone else is trying to bank it in off someone's shin. But like, that's why to me, and if I'm another team, I don't think you can ignore the fact that the Golden Knights have an elite power play with 4 superstars on the power play. Like, we can talk about what we want to about how good is actual Hurdle as a complete player. He's excellent as a bumper player. Marner is excellent at the top of the power play. Eichel has been excellent in that spot. Stone is very good. Being the 5th wheel and having 10 power play goals, which he has, which is awesome, does that translate if you trade him to the Montreal Canadiens? I don't know. And then it's like, well, they haven't scored a goal in 25 games and he doesn't pass and he's not all that strong, but he's also young and he doesn't make all that much right now. There probably is value, but what is the value? Is he worth more than Philip Deneau? Probably not.
All right. I got 2 things for you. First off, Bruce Cassidy is the longest tenured coach in franchise history now. When does it end?
Hopefully not before the calendar changes. If they lose 4 straight games, like I don't know. Like there's only
Like
been
you think it's possible it's
yeah,
quickly in season as surprising as Gerard Gallant was.
Yeah, I think if they go on a horrible run here while the players are injured, yeah, I think it is possible. If they were to lose all of the next 4 games at home by multiple goals on a few of them, let's say it's 3 of the 4 multiple goals, and they've now lost 7 straight games and 6 in a row in regulation, all to Western Conference opponents, yeah, they're going to look at it because that's what has happened. It's the wrong move. It would be hasty and stupid, just like it was hasty and stupid to do Gerard Gallant at the time that they did that. And unlike when they went from Gerard Gallant to DeBoer and DeBoer to Cassidy, and that one's even kind of close, they're not going up from here. They're not getting a better coach. There's not one out there. It's not going to happen. Like, I think the guy's top 5. Should they fire him? Absolutely not. Could they? Yeah, I think it's very possible. If they miss the playoffs, it's going to be on the table. At the very least, he's going to go into next season needing to have one of his patented hot starts, which they got again this year. 5-0-2. We know that. Don't look on your Twitter. Like, yeah, I think it's very possible. That's what they do. That's the MO. We can't change all the players. We don't have that ability. So we got to change the voice in the room. And he's out here after the last 2 games saying the players have seen the movie before. The players need to take it, be professionals, and figure it out. You know, what was the frickin' part? I tweeted that was on the headline of my story today. He almost used the F word in there. Like, he's getting frustrated because he keeps telling them the same thing and they don't do it.
Last thing. Is the United States winning the World Cup?
Of course.
Okay.
No, we're definitely not, but that'd be nice. Well, I think we're going to be pretty good, though. I got my little ball.
Ooh, why wouldn't we be good? Like, what are we worried about? Paraguay?
No, we're not worried. I mean, no, we're going to 9 points. That's always what we expect. 9 point. We're for sure doing that. That's definitely not going to happen. It's going to be devastating because we're going to 2 of the games, and they're probably not going to win one of the 2.
Are we going to 2 of the games?
Oh, we're going to 2 of the games. We got RTTs lined up.
Yeah, that's
if
real.
anybody
That's
wants
to
look that up, it's real. We're
gotta
going.
Be a real thing.
We're going. I don't know if we're going to the other game, but no, we're probably not. But round of 16 for sure. We're winning the group. We're winning the first knockout stage game against some crap third place team. Hopefully it's like Cabo Verde. And
that'd be nice.
And then we get, what is it? I think it's Belgium. It's supposed to be Belgium. We might win that game. A home game. We got the gusto. Where's that game? Seattle again, I think.
I can't remember which.
I think it was San Fran and then Seattle again. Yeah, Seattle will be a good. There'll be like 8 Belgians there. Maybe I'm Belgian. I'll be cheering. I probably am. But
you have a Belgium jersey. I think you have to burn.
I do. I got the sleeve. Yeah, the fire on the sleeves. Yeah, I will. I'll bring it and burn it. Ooh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. And don't get mistaken for somebody from Egypt burning a gay pride flag because they're mad that their game is selected for Pride game.
That was wild.
Yeah. It's good.
That
good
was
timing.
pretty wild.
Get Iraq and Egypt playing each other. And
man, what a conundrum for FIFA to be in after holding the World Cup in Qatar, and then 2 later it's in Saudi, and they're like, well, we kind of have to go both ways on this one.
Don't worry, they gave out a peace prize to Donald Trump. He'll fix it all. He will handle it.
The picture of him with the medal, and he's just standing there with his medal. Like,
he had to put on happening? Himself. They didn't have somebody to put the medal on.
That event should have been in Vegas too, which is such a shame because it would have been hilarious. Because then the whole thing would have been projected all up on the sphere, and he would have been all full size Trump with the medal on the sphere. It would have been incredible. Like that's what this is about. That's what makes the World Cup. That's why I'm pumped about the Olympics. Like whatever is occurring with Jack Eichel in the Golden Knights, we need to set that aside for a moment and realize like we must win over Canada, over in Milan. We need him back for that at the very least. So that's what I'm worried about. Granted, Golden Knights are going to be out of the playoffs by the time that happens. We'll figure that one out later. But as long as we beat Canada, we get our own little medals, the correct color this time.
You know somebody's getting hurt against the boards because the rink is like 4 feet too short, and the NHL is going to lose its mind.
It's 3.5 feet short, but it's actually wider by like a quarter of a meter, whatever that means, or something. But that's so ridiculous that they're complaining about that. Like, what a joke. Nonetheless, we need to win that. Like, we lost 4 nations. We need to win that because we can't have this happening again. They don't have goalies. Their goalies are awful. And their only good goalie, Aiden Hill, is hurt.
When's Missouri's playoff game?
Yeah, we don't do that.
Okay. Ole Miss is going to win.
We got a new offensive coordinator who, from what I understand, runs the ball only, which is nice because our only good player is the running back.
Yeah, and the quarterback just transferred, so
unimportant.
Okay, all right. Never is. You don't need a quarterback.
No.
Okay. He's Ken Boehlke, SinBin.Vegas. He's bald. It's pretty great. See you, Ken. Thanks for coming on.
See ya.
So thanks to Ken for coming on the show. First guest of the show. We're going to have more guests. Don't want to be a guest-heavy or exclusive show, but we'll do some guests. Now, before we finish the show, I do want to mention this one more time. I've got a pair of basketball tickets, UNLV basketball tickets to give away for their game on Monday. Shout out to Arnold. One of our listeners, sponsored part of the show last week or 2 weeks ago, gave me 2 tickets for that game to give away. So if you want to win them, you need to email me at technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com. Email me there, and you've got to answer this question correctly. The first person to answer it is going to win the pair of tickets. Who scored the first points of the season for UNLV basketball? Answer that correctly. First one to do it and email me at technicallycorrectvegas@gmail.com is going to win a pair of tickets to that UNLV game on Monday. So thank you to Arnold. Christmas present for somebody. I appreciate Arnold. I appreciate all of you listening. Good luck to anybody who thinks they can win those tickets. And we will see you tomorrow. Again, I'll give you this note. Doing a show on Christmas Eve after UNLV's bowl game. Golden Knights play the Sharks as well. We'll have a show on Christmas Eve. Done for the week after that. You're not getting one on Christmas, and I'm not doing one the day after Christmas. Sorry. So you get one more show this week after UNLV's bowl game. But thank you all for tuning in. See you tomorrow.